Rishus Mardasra. We're doing tonight's Dirshu Bahalacha. We are holding on Kuf Ayin Zayin Amid Aleph. We're actually going to begin on the bottom of Kuf Ayin Vav Amid Beis. We have a little bit left from last night. So we are in Siman Shin Lamed Daled, and we're in the middle of Sif Yud Beis. So I'm just going to start the Mechaber from the beginning of Sif Yud Beis, just to recap where we were holding. The Mechaber says, Kol Kisvei HaKodesh Matzilin Ha'idna B'pnei Adleika V'karin Behem. All Sifrei Kedusha, nowadays you're allowed to save them on Shabbos from a fire, and certainly you are allowed to learn from them. Afilu Ksuvim B'chaloshain, even if these are Svarim that are written in any language, a language other than Lashon HaKodesh, Va'afilu Ksuvim B'samu B'sikra, and even if they are written not in Diyai, even if they are written B'samu B'sikra, or B'chal Davar, if they're written with anything else. Now the Mechaber continues. V'chein, with 3 lines from the bottom of Kuf Ayin Vav Amud Beis. V'chein, similarly, Matbeya Brachai Shetavu Chachamim. If you have a written or a printed nusach of brachas, right? Like somebody has something that hangs on the wall of Birkas Hamazon or Ala Michya or some other bracha, Matzilin Aisam Min Adleika, you would be allowed to save this from a fire, or Mikal Makam Haturpa, or from any other place. It says in parentheses here that the definition of Haturpa is Pirish Makam Megula V'Hefker, a place which is exposed and abandoned. So you're allowed, what was that? Oh, sure, yeah. So any place that's, you could save any of these things from any place where they are in danger of becoming ruined. V'chein Targum Sheksavai Ivri. Similarly, if you have something that should appear in the pasuk as Targum, but it was written in Ivri, Kigain, for example, Yagar Sahadusa. We know that when in Parshas Vayetze, when Yaakov was running away from Lavan, so the two of them set up a matzeva, they set up some kind of boundary between themselves. What? This is Parsha Vayetze. They set up a boundary, and they each called it a different name. Yaakov called it Galeid in Lashon HaKodesh. This Gal, this mound, should be a witness. And Lavan used his chutzpah to stick into the Torah Kedosha some Aramaic, and he put in Yagar Sahadusa, which is the same thing as Galeid, it's just in Aramaic. And if you would have Yagar Sahadusa would be, well, Lavan, obviously the Rosh put it in, but that was Lavan's. It's brought down that was Lavan's wanted to give that shtach. So this was a way of introducing us to Lavan. So who, me or Lavan? So. No, I'm not going to leave Lavan alone. You know, I would say it at the end if we have time, but you know that there's a medrash that brings down that Bilam was Lavan. So he had a very long-standing career in anti-Semitism. So I'm not. I refuse to leave him alone. Hundreds of years, yeah. And the other opinion in the medrash that doesn't say that Bilam was Lavan says that Bilam was Lavan's son. So even if Bilam wasn't Lavan, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. So, or similarly, you have in Yirmiyah, the pasuk says, "V'chidinah temrun lahain." So shall you say to them. And "V'chidinah temrun lahain" could be written in Lashon HaKodesh. It could be written Kaisar Marlahem. So if you wrote if Yagar Sahadusa appeared in a sefer written as Galeid, and "V'chidinah temrun lahain" appeared as Kaisar Marlahem. So, or V'ivri Sheksavai Targum. Or if you had a regular pasuk of Lashon HaKodesh that was written in Targum, or any other language that people are familiar with, if you have a Sefer Torah where the Sefer Torah is in very, very bad shape, it's all worn out, but if you go through the Sefer Torah, you could find entire words interspersed in different places. And if you take those entire words and you add up the letters of those entire words and you come up with a total of at least 85 letters, Or this Sefer Torah that's worn out has a complete shame, name of Hashem written in it, Matzilin Isa, you would save it. Now this was a mouthful, and now we'll go through the Mishnah Berurah to see what this is all talking about. So we're going to go to Ais Katan Lamed Gimel on Kuf Ayin Vav Amud Beis. That's where we were holding. V'chein matpei brachos. If you have the nusach of a bracha written out, shekol zeh hutar lichtayv bizmanenu. Nowadays you're allowed to write all of these things. All of arich, and to make brachas out of this ksav. All of his palel bam, you have a siddur. You're allowed to write a siddur and daven out of a siddur. Mishum eis laseis lashem, because of the same heter we spoke about yesterday, because of eis laseis lashem eferu tarasecha. If not, people wouldn't be able to daven, they wouldn't be able to say brachas. Valkain, since it's mutter to write them and to read from them, memela tzarich la'atzilam and adleika, therefore you're allowed to save them from a fire. V'gam tu'unim gniza, and they would also have to be treated with kavod, you would have to put them in shemos. B'chol shaloyu munachim b'makim hefker, you can't leave them around in a makim hefker. And the Mechaber said if you have something that is supposed to appear in the Torah as Targum, Kegon Yegarsa Hadusa, and it was written in Lashon HaKodesh, that also has Kedusha, Kegon Yegarsa Hadusa Ha'amur B'Torah. Or Ritzono Loimar, and with this the Mechaber wants to say, now, the problem that the Chavetz Chaim has over here is as follows. The Chavetz Chaim is bothered, what is the Mechaber trying to tell me when he tells me that if it says Yegarsa Hadusa in Lashon HaKodesh, we should save it? Or if it says V'chidinah Temrun Lahain in a Sefer of Yirmiyah in Lashon HaKodesh, we should save it. What's the Mechaber telling me? We're not going to save it if those are the only words. If we would have a paper that would say on it, Galeid, we wouldn't save it from a Dleika. It's not a Sefer Shalom, it's not anything. If we would have a Sefer that says on it, Kai Sarmon Lahem, we're not going to save it. So what exactly is the Mechaber trying to tell me here? So the Chavetz Chaim explains, what's the point of this halacha? Or Ritzono Loimar, what does the Mechaber want to tell me here? Shehishlim be'elu hatevos hacheshbin shel shmeinim v'chamesh oisiyos ukidel kamei. The point of the Mechaber is, let's say you had a worn out Sefer Torah, and you went through the Sefer Torah, and you found complete words that contain a total of 85 letters. But in those words, you had, where it was supposed to say Yegarsa Hadusa, it said Galeid. And now that word Galeid, you want to add to your total of 85 oisiyos. Says the Mechaber, you can. That would go into the cheshbon of the 85 oisiyos. Oh, why? Yes, we're going to get to that. Because if it was just Galeid that would be in the Sefer, we wouldn't save it from a fire. That's not 85 letters. I feel loy had tikam ivri. Even if it wasn't switched from Yegarsa Hadusa to Galeid, if we had a Sefer Torah, the only thing we can make out in it is Yegarsa Hadusa. We're not going to save that from a Dleika, because that's not a Sefer Torah. You don't have 85 oisiyos. It doesn't have Kedusha Sefer Torah to save it from a Dleika. Okay, Ais Katan Lamed Hey on Kuf Ayin Zayin Amud Aleph. It has to be a language she'oisei ha'am b'kiyam bai. It has to be a language.
It doesn't make sense. What do you mean that there is Galeid in the Torah? So how do you know it's the Yegarsa Hadusa?
Well, it's in the wrong pasuk.
What?
You know, where it's supposed to say Yegarsa Hadusa, it says Galeid.
So then it's a passage Sefer Torah. You're not supposed to save it at all.
So apparently not. Apparently not.
What?
That's the Chiddush over here. The Chiddush is that if it's written in Targum, we still give it Kedusha. Because like he said in the beginning, it's a kisvei kodesh that are written in any language, you're allowed to say from Dleika. Are you allowed to read from it? Would you use it in shul for Kriyas HaTorah? No, you wouldn't. But to save it from a Dleika, you'll save it from a Dleika. That's the Chiddush of B'chol Lashon. Sha'isay ha'am b'kiyam bai has to be a language that people are familiar with. Aval, im ha'am eina mevina ma'isei halashon, if the people in that locale, and I think we'll speak about this in a minute, but you can't go ahead and you want to write a Sefer Kedusha in Flemish in a place where nobody knows what you're writing and nobody has any use for it, there's no point to it, that you're not allowed to write it, you're not allowed to save it. Again, why? The whole heter of writing the Sefer in the other language is because of Eis Lasis Lashem Eferu Tarasecha. But you're not accomplishing anything by writing a book that nobody could read. So therefore, you're not allowed to write it. You're not allowed to use it. You don't save it.
Why happens if it was written in Hebrew and people don't understand it over there?
So that has intrinsic kedusha. If it's Lashon HaKodesh, it has intrinsic kedusha.
What happens if it was written in Greek and nobody understands it?
Oh, so now you'll ask me, what happens if we have a French art scroll Gemara? Well, if we get, I'm saying, but whatever, a language that nobody knows. What do you mean French is nothing? What do you mean it's nothing?
Because you have to understand it.
And Greek, you have to understand Greek too. Why don't you have to understand Greek?
Because that's what it says. You have to look in the Yefet, Leishkom Ve'Leishem.
Right.
So it talks about Greek. If they write the Megillah in Greek and you don't understand it, it's okay.
What do you mean it's okay? It's okay what?
What?
You're not Yaitse with a Greek. You're not Yaitse with a Greek Megillah.
It's like Hebrew.
You're not Yaitse with a Greek Megillah.
What?
You're not Yaitse with a Greek Megillah.
In places where you don't know, whatever, Loazi, whatever the
Right.
halacha is, I don't know exactly
Right.
what the halacha is. But if it's written in Greek, Greek has the same status as Hebrew. If you don't understand it.
Okay, I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah, that's what
I'll bow to you on this, but I'm not familiar with it. I'm not familiar with what you're saying.
That has a status. Greek.
I'm not.
If you don't understand it.
You caught me. If you caught me, I don't know. I don't know. Val shaloi shama amar loi shamati. Aval ha'aleinu mevinu ma'isei Allah shenasa l'kasei l'atziloi d'loi hutar rak mishamei sas l'Hashem echanal. V'ayin b'bir halacha d'das haran b'shem ha'Ravid. Bir halacha brings down the opinion of the Rav in the name of the Ravid. D'loi hutar lichtayv sha'ar lashon u'likreis by kisvei ha'kodesh ki im kishe'enu baki b'lashon ha'kodesh. This is a big chiddush where the Ran says in the name of the Ravid that this whole heter of Eis Lasis Lashem Eferu Tarasecha and to have Kisvei HaKodesh written in different languages is only if you don't know Lashon HaKodesh. If you know Lashon HaKodesh, so what are you doing using something written in English? You're using something written in Spanish. You know Lashon HaKodesh. You don't have the heter of Eis Lasis Lashem Eferu Tarasecha. So I know they bring down from the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish says don't get carried away with this Ran and this Ravid and start saying that if you know Lashon HaKodesh, you have no right, you can't pick up an article Chumash and read an article Chumash because you're being over in Issa, you don't need Eis Lasis Lashem. So the Chazon Ish says no. Nowadays, once we have the heter of Eis Lasis Lashem Eferu Tarasecha and we write Sifrei Kedusha in all languages and everything else, you don't have to go ahead and be worried that maybe you're not allowed to use it. Everybody's allowed to use it without a problem. Okay, Shmainim v'chamesh oisiyos. We said that if you have entire words and the letters of those words add up to 85 oisiyos, then the Sefer Torah has Kedusha Sefer Torah and you're allowed to be matzalit from a fire. Where does this 85 oisiyos come from? So the Mishnah Berurah points us in the right direction, but he doesn't give the full explanation. Sha'al yedei shir zeh, because with this number, Yesh adayin oleh ktsas kedusha sefer Torah. The sefer retains a certain amount of kedusha sefer Torah. Mishum shekein nimtza beparshas vayihi b'ntzaya. Because in Sefer Bamidbar we have the parsha of Vayihi b'ntzaya Aaron v'yam Moshe kum Hashem v'yivutza avecha v'yinuzu b'sanecha mipanecha. That parsha contains 85 oisiyos. Now, why is it that because the parsha of Vayihi b'ntzaya has 85 oisiyos, why does that become the measuring stick by which we say if you have 85 oisiyos, it retains Kedusha Sefer Torah? So the reason for that is, I believe it's the Gemara in Shabbos, says we know that the parsha of Vayihi b'ntzaya Aaron has an upside down nun before it and after it, which isolates it from the rest of Sefer Bamidbar. And there's a pasuk in Mishlei, Chatzva Amudeha Shiva, that the Rabbeinu Shalom chiseled out the pillars for us, seven pillars, 1 out of 7 pillars. So it's brought down that those are the 7 svarim of the Torah. Now we all sing by the Seder, 5 is the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. So where did the 7 come from? So the 7 is, since Vayihi b'ntzaya Aaron is cut off, so that means that Bamidbar is now 3 svarim. It's before Vayihi b'ntzaya and after. So now instead of having 5, now you have 7 svarim. So that once you do that, so Vayihi b'ntzaya becomes the smallest one of the svarim of Torah. So since that 85 oisios is the smallest sefer, if you have 85 oisios, you retain Kedushas Sefer Torah. Ois Katan Lamed Zayin, Shleimos. These 85 letters have to be culled out of complete words. Ritzaner Loimar, what the Mechaber wants to tell you here, what's going on here. Shenimchak Kol HaSefer. The Sefer was worn out and erased, whatever it is, the letters, the words, you can't really read the words. V'nishar rak teva achash shleima kan, the teva kan, and you have an entire word here and an entire word there. Ad sheben kulam yesh shemayin v'chamesh oisiyos, until when you gather together all of the complete words, you have 85 oisiyos. Ula'afuke, this is in contrast to im einam ninsam teva shleimos. If you go through the Sefer Torah and you cannot find any complete words, rak oisiyos mifuzaris, all you have is you have scattered letters that you can make out, some letters here and some letters there. Loi mahani, that is not efficacious to give you kedusha Sefer Torah. Av sheyesh shemayin v'chamesh oisiyos, even if you will find 85 oisiyos. V'chol zehu rak l'inyan hatzalam adleika. Chavetz Chaim points out that this whole discussion is only relevant to the question of whether you could save it from a fire. Aval inyan geniza, but when it comes to the question of maintaining this Sefer Torah in shemus, that you can't just dispose of it, you have to put it in shemus, bekavod, aval inyan geniza, pshita de be'inan, for sure, a Sefer Torah that's worn out definitely requires geniza. Okay, now we begin today's dirshu with Sif Yud Gimel. Yesh mi she'omer. There are those that say the Megillas Esther Hayil ve'ein baz karis. We know that in Megillas Esther we don't have the Shem Hashem. So since we have here one of the Chav Dalet Sifrei Kedusha that does not contain any names of Hashem, im eina ksuva kimishpata, if it's not written kihilchasa, which is Ashuris, it has to be written in Ksav Ashuris, in the script that we use for a Sefer Torah. Al ha'or, and it has to be written on klaf, ubid yoi, and it has to be written with special ink, with yoi. If you don't have that, then ein ba kedusha lahatzila b'pnei adleika. Then it does not have the necessary kedusha that would allow you to save it from a fire on Shabbos. Because what do you have here? You have one of the Sifrei Kedusha that was not written kehilchasa, wasn't written the way you're supposed to write it, and it doesn't have any Askaris, it doesn't have Shem Hashem, so what Kedusha does it have that you should go ahead and save it from a fire on Shabbos? And now the Chavetz Chaim is going to go into this a little bit deeper. Says the Chavetz Chaim in Ois Katan Lamed Ches, Hayol ve'ein, mipnei shenitna lichtayv b'dasei paras u'madai. Since the Megillah, how was the Megillah created? And how was it distributed? It wasn't written by the Anshe Knesset Agdola as one of the Chav Dalet Sifrei Kedusha and introduced to Klal Yisrael as one of the Sifrei Kedusha. It was written B'dasei Paras Amadai. It was written as a government instrument. And the government scribes went and wrote it and sent it out. And because it was written in that fashion, brings the Chavetz Chaim down over here from the Mordechai, that since it was written in that fashion, they did not put any of the Shemos of Hashem in it. Yes. So let's go into the next Mishnah Berurah here. But I would also have to mention that, of course, another reason why the Shem Hashem doesn't appear in the Megillah is because the whole intent of the Megillah, the Haster Aster Panai, it was a time of Hester Panim, and the whole Avodah of Purim is that we have to see the Yad Hashem in the Hester Panim, right? We have to see the Yad Hashem where it's not a Nes Nigla, where the Yad Hashem was hidden, and we have to see it in how events unfolded. So we don't want the Shem Shamayim in the Megillah, because we're trying to see the Shem Shamayim without it being thrust in front of our eyes. Chavetz Chaim says in Ois Katan Lamed Tes, if the Megillah was not written kimishpata, so what did the Mechaber say? The Mechaber said, if the Megillah is not written with all the dinim, it's not written in Ashuris, it's not written on Klaf, it's not written on Dioi, so then there are those that say that it does not have the requisite Kedusha to go save it. Magen Avram, Masik, the Magen Avram comes out, the Chol Zeh, this whole sif over here, Hurak Bizman HaTalmud, this is only in the time of the Gemara. Da'az Haya Asar Lahatzila, At that point in time, it would be also to save this Megillah, Elim ken ksuva kilchasa, unless it was written kilchasa. Why? Kevin shaloi nitan lichtay v'lilmaid ba. Because again, in the time of Chazal, before we came to Eis Lases L'Hashem Efer Torah, you would not be allowed to write the Megillah. You're writing one of the Chaf Dalet Sifrei Kedusha. You're not allowed to write it in any other Lashon other than Lashon HaKodesh, and you're not allowed to write it in any other way other than Dioi. And if you did, it would have no purpose. You wouldn't be allowed to read from it. Avala Idna, nowadays, Kevin de Misham Eis Lases L'Hashem, Nitan Lilmaid Ba, Afilu Ksuva B'Niyara B'Chaloshin. Nowadays, that you could write a Megillah on any kind of paper, using any language, and any script, and any ink, so certainly it has Kedusha like any other Sefer that we have nowadays. So this whole Mechaber was only in the day and age before Eis Lases L'Hashem Efer Torah, where to write a Kisvei HaKodesh in that way you wouldn't be allowed, and you wouldn't be allowed to learn from it. But nowadays, certainly it has Kedusha. Where is there a chilik though? Varak, says the Chavetz Chaim, Le'inyan im kisava b'lashon HaKodesh, if you would write the Megillah in Lashon HaKodesh, v'shaloi b'dyoi, and this is going to come back to the same issue that we spoke about yesterday. If you would write the Megillah in Lashon HaKodesh, and now you don't use dyoi, and instead kiyim b'sam v'sikra, you wrote it b'sam v'sikra, yesh nafkamina. Now you have a difference. The b'chol kisvei HaKodesh, by any other one of the other 23 Svarim HaKadoshim, afilu im hayu ksuvim b'sam v'sikra, even if you wrote them in Lashon HaKodesh, and you wrote them b'samu v'sikra, which the Magen Avram that we spoke about yesterday says you're not allowed to do, right? He said if you write one of the Chaf Dalet Sifrei HaKodesh in Lashon HaKodesh, you have to write it b'dyoi. You can't write it b'samu b'sikra because there's no heter of Eis Lasos to write it b'samu b'sikra. But by any one of those svarim, if you were over and you did write it b'samu b'sikra, the ain kairin b'hen, and now you're not allowed to learn from it. Why? Mishum de bekal yachal liknos dioi k'moi sam v'sikra, because it's just as easy to get hold of dioi as it is to get hold of sam v'sikra. So why did you write it in dioi? Why did you write it in Sam V'Sikra? You weren't allowed to write it in Sam V'Sikra. You wrote it in Sam V'Sikra, you're not allowed to learn from it. That's what the Magen Avram said yesterday. Because there is no heter of Eis Lasos to write one of the Sifrei Kedusha in Sam V'Sikra instead of Dyoi. But still, afilu hachi matzilun oisan mipnei adleika mipnei ha'askari shebehen. So again, what he's saying over here is there's a critical difference between the other 23 Sifrei Kedusha and Megillah. Any one of the other 23 Svarim HaKadoshim, according to the Magen Avram, if you write them in Lashon HaKodesh, you're mechuyev to write them in Dyoi. If you didn't write it in Dyoi, but you wrote it b'sam v'sikra, you're not allowed to learn from it. But even though you're not allowed to learn from it, still you have to save it from a fire on Shabbos. Why? Because it has the Shem Hashem in it. Because it has Askaris in it, so it has Kedusha, and you have to save it from a fire. Ma she'ein kein b'Megillah, but here is where the Megillah is different. The less Askaris, because the Megillah doesn't have the Shem Hashem. Therefore, im ksava b'sam v'sikra, if you wrote a Megillah in Lashon HaKodesh, but you wrote it with Sam V'Sikra instead of Dyoi, Ein Kairin Ba, you're not allowed to learn from it, Vein Matzilin Oisam Mipnei Adleika, and you also won't save it from a fire because it doesn't have a Shem Shamayim. V'chol zeh b'eser v'arba Sifrei Kodesh, this is only by the 24 Svarim HaKadoshim, Tanakh, Aval Shar Svarim, but any other Svarim of Torah Shabbat Peh, Pshita to nichtavim b'sam v'sikra. Certainly they could be written b'sam v'sikra. Bein heicha sheksuva b'lashon hakodesh, whether they're written in lashon hakodesh, or bein sheksuva b'chaloshain, or whether they're written in any other language. Now, to recap, because I want to jump into a Shar Tzion over here. We have a very, I don't say very big Kiddush, but we have the Magen Avram's logic over here. The Magen Avram's logic is Torah Shebeksav. There are limitations in how you are allowed to write Torah Shebeksav. Before Eis Lasos L'Hashem, you wanted to write Torah Shebeksav, you had to write a Sefer Shlema, You weren't allowed to just write down a pasuk. You had to write down an entire sefer. You had to write it in Lashon HaKodesh. You had to write it in Ashuris, and you had to write it in Diyoi. Came along Chazal, and they said, because of Eis Lasis Lashem, Heiferu Tarasecha, we're going to allow you to write Torah Shebeksav in any language. We're going to allow you to write it on Nior, on paper, so it should be more widespread. We're going to allow you to write it in any script. And we're also going to allow you to write less than a Sefer Sholem. You could write down a few psukim. Those were all heterim because of Eis Lasis Lashem Heiferu Tarasecha. But says the Magen Avram, if you are writing it in Lashon HaKodesh, then you have to use Diyoi. There's no excuse to use Sam V'Sikra. You have to use Diyoi. You wrote it with Sam V'Sikra, you're not allowed to learn it. That's what we said from the Magen Avram. And this piece of the Chavetz Chaim that we just did is a continuation of that Magen Avram. Now, if you take a look in the Sha'ar Tzion, I want to look at this because I brought up yesterday what's the heter nowadays for all of our chamashim and everything else. So I was telling you, Paiskim say that for mass production purposes and this and that, yeah, Chavetz Chaim tackles it right away today in the Sha'ar Tzion. So in the Sha'ar Tzion, in Ois Katan Lamed Zayin, 2 lines off the bottom of the page on the right side column, the Sha'ar Tzion says, Vida. You see it over there? Vida. You should know. The Ha'eliyah Rabbah, Polig A'ikr Dina de Magen Avram. He's chaylik on the Magen Avram completely. Usviralei, and he holds, the Ha'idna She'itiru Mishum Eis Lasos, that once we have the heter of Eis Lasos Lashem Heiferu Tarasecha, Ein Nafkamina, Bein Ksiva B'Diyoi, Oy B'Sam V'Sikra. There is no difference. You could write with Sam V'Sikra just as well as you could write with Diyoi. Now, the Eliyahu Rabbah, his raya is a very, very simple raya. It says in the brackets here, the Kasav, the Eliyahu Rabbah says, the Meloshen Shulchan Aruch B'Sif Yud Beis, from the language of the Mechaber in Sif Yud Beis that we saw yesterday, Lo Mashma Kavasei the Magen Avram. It's not mashma like the Magen Avram at all. Because if you look at Sif Yud Beis, that we did yesterday, what does the Mechaber say? And the Mechaber says, Kol Kisvei HaKodesh, any one of the Sifrei Tanakh, Matzilin Ha'idna Mipnei Adleika, you would save them from a fire, V'koirin Bahem, and you're allowed to learn from them, Afilu Ksuvim B'chol Lashon, even if they're written in any language, V'afilu Ksuvim B'samu B'sikra, U'B'chol Davar. And even if they're written with Sam V'Sikra or anything else. Does he make any caveats over there, the Mechaber? Does the Mechaber say that if you wrote it Lashon HaKodesh, you're not allowed to use Sam V'Sikra? It doesn't say that. We learned this yesterday. We jumped into the Chavetz Chaim, and the Chavetz Chaim said, oh, this that it says, Afilu B'Ksuvim B'Samu B'Sikra, goes back on B'Kol Lashon. It goes back on Sfarim that were written in any other language other than Lashon HaKodesh. But that's not what the Mechaber says in a straight reading of the Mechaber. So that's the Eliyahu Rabbah's raya, Kedeged the Magen Avram. Now, the Chavetz Chaim jumps to the defense of the Magen Avram, V'nira li l'taretz. And I love the way the Chavetz Chaim, the Chavetz Chaim jumped in the middle to make a pshara between the Eliyahu Rabbah and the Magen Avram. V'nira li l'taretz. The Chavetz Chaim says, I would be mitaretz for the Magen Avram. The Shulchan Aruch Mairi, the Mechaber in Yud Beis is talking, Heichid nichtefes oy nitfeses al nior. The Mechaber is talking about when you wrote something on paper. Umistabra de bazeh gam Magen Avram moeded karin ba b'chol gavni. If it's written on nior, then says the Chavetz Chaim, the Magen Avram would be maskim that you could use Sam V'Sikra. The Balav Haki Mekalinan Mishum Eis Lasos. Because once you're writing it on paper, you're already relying on Eis Lasos. You're relying on Eis Lasos to write it. You're relying on Eis Lasos to write it on paper. So you're already relying on Eis Lasos. Once you're relying on Eis Lasos, you could rely on Eis Lasos, and you can write it in Diyoi also. You don't. I'm sorry, in Sam V'Sikra also. You don't have to worry about Diyoi. V'hu Mairi, and the Magen Avram is talking, Rak Heichid in Nichteves HaKlaf. So what the Chavetz Chaim is trying to say is like this. He's trying to say, this that the Magen Avram says that you're not allowed to use Sam V'Sikra, that's not any time you write it in Lashon HaKodesh. That's when it's Lashon HaKodesh on Klaf. Lashon HaKodesh on Klaf, you got to use Diyoi. You used Sam V'Sikra, you're not allowed to learn from it. You wrote it on paper, You write it on paper, all bets are off. Then you can use it on the sick roll. So the Eliyahu Rabbah says that even on cloth, on anything, anytime, you don't have to worry about the oy. So from this Sha'ar Tzion, we would see that we have no problem at all with what we do nowadays. Not according to the Eliyahu Rabbah, not according to the Chavetz Chaim. According to a strict reading of the Magen Avram, you have an issue. A strict reading of the Magen Avram would seem to say that even on Niyor, you need the oy. Okay. Now we go to Sif Yod Dalet. Now I have to preface that the Sif Yod Dalet is going to discuss Kemeyin, amulets, which were very popular apparently in the time of the Mishnah, the time of the Gemara. There were amulets that would be written, and there were mumchim, there were professionals who knew how to write effective amulets, and then there were shysters that would, just scribble something in an amulet and stick it in, or didn't know what they were doing. But apparently amulets were very commonplace and popular and very much in use. There's all sorts of shilas in the use of these amulets. When you're allowed to use them, when you're not allowed to use them, you're allowed to go out with them on Shabbos, you're not allowed to go out with them on Shabbos. That we discussed in Siman Shin Aleph. I did not research the sugya of Kemeyin, so I'm just going to jump in with what the Mechaber says and what the Mishnah Berurah says. Ha-Kemeim sheyesh behem psukim. Amulets that have written into them psukim. That's what they would do with these amulets. They would often write over psukim in these amulets, which were said to be efficacious to keep people healthy or to cure people. Really, I think we're only allowed to use them to keep somebody healthy, not to cure somebody. They would also sometimes write shemais in them or some other things. So hakemeim sheyesh behem psukim, amulets that have psukim, ein matzilim oisam mipnei hadleika. You're not allowed to save them from a fire. V'yesh omrim shematzilim, and some say that you can save them. Says the Chavetz Chaim in Ois Katan Mem. Hakemeim, amulets. Tam deya harishayna, the rationale for the first opinion in the Mechaber that says that you're not allowed to save them from a fire. Tam deya rishayna, the bekemeyin ein shaykh behem tam de'es lases lashem. There is no heter of eis lases lashem eferu tarasecha to write psukim in a kemeya. And again, there's a problem with writing a pasuk in a kemeya, because even though a pasuk is from Torah Shebeksav, without a heter of eis lasos, you're only allowed to write a sefer shlema. You're not allowed to just write a pasuk or two psukim. So what heter do you have to write a pasuk for a kemeya? So tam de rishona to be kemeyin ein charich bem tam de eis lasos lashem. You don't have a heter to write what you wrote from eis lasos lashem efer tosecha. Dein bazet Torah lilmoid olu hispalal. You're not learning. You're not writing it for the sake of learning Torah. Olu hispalal. You're not writing it to daven from it. So what right did you have to write it? Al kain aser lichtay vaysam. So it was aser. It was forbidden to write this kemeya, and therefore certainly we're not going to save it from a fire. The Yeshayimrim and the ones that are chaylik, the second opinion in the Mechaber, the Yeshayimrim sfira lehu kevan de isyev rishos lemichtav brachos. Once the heter of eis lases lashem eferu tarasecha allowed us to write a siddur and to write brachos and to write everything else, yesh dami rishos lemichtav kemeyin. So it's like a blanket heter of eis lases lashem, and you have heterim to write kemeyin as well. Ein matzilin. This is the first opinion. Ein matzilin oisam. Mayri b'chayla shei by sakana. This is referring to a kemeya that was written for a chayla she'ein by sakana. Or b'chayla sheyesh by sakana. Matzah la kemeya shaloi. If it's a chayla sheyesh by sakana, you're allowed to save his kemeya. V'yotzia alav derech malbush. But he should only save it by taking it out derech malbush. He shouldn't carry it out b'yadayim. He should wear it derech malbush. The Yeshayim Shamatzilin, Iskatan Membeis. Some say that you can save a kemeya. The halacha kedeya harishayna. The halacha follows the first opinion, which usually it's not that way. Usually when there's a Yeshayim and a Yeshayim in the Mechaber, we usually go like the second opinion. When we come makom kishiyesh ben askaros, when the Shem Hashem is written into one of these kemeyim, yesh loimer dematzilin. There are those that say that we should save it. I know that there's a tshuva from the Yeshiva Zatzal where I believe he says that if you have a kemeya that does not have psukim, it only has shemais, then he's really mistopic whether or not you're allowed to save it and how you have to treat it. He says if it has psukim, so it far it has the kedusha of Torah. He says the shame alone that was written for a kameya, he's mesupik what kind of kedusha that has. So we finished today's dirshu. We have a few minutes here. So I know that I have said that I want to do Pirkei Avos, and I still do. I haven't given up on that. But there is something that's been troubling me, and there's been something that I've wanted to say for a while now. So I'll bring it up, and I'll get it off my chest, and we'll see what people say about it. But we know that we've had in the news lately we had the Pittsburgh shooting. I don't know what's going on in this country and in this world with these mass shootings, but eventually all of these things unfortunately roll around to us. And you had the shooting over there, and I know that it spurred a lot of talk about people arming themselves and people bringing guns into shuls and whether or not it should be done or it shouldn't be done. There are rabbanim that are pushing it. There are rabbanim that are vociferously against it, which is nothing new, right? What do they say? 10 Jews, 10 shuls. So there's definitely going to be arguments about it. I am not going to be machnis my head into that discussion, whether it should be done or it shouldn't be done. My point, there's a different point that I would like to make. And that is that we had, in last week's Parsha, we had Hakel Kel Yaakov Hayadayim Yidei Esav. Now, I understand that there is a kind of a knee-jerk reaction for people to say, I'll get a gun. I'll get a gun, and I'll protect myself with a gun. I'll protect the kehillah with a gun. And what troubles me is, the Rabbeinu Shalom gave us a weapon. The Rabbeinu Shalom gave us a way to arm ourselves. And he gave the Goyim theirs. And the truth is, it's the same thing that we say in the Pasuk in Hazinu. One of the tainas that the Rabbeinu Shalom has in Hazinu, he says that you went after Avodah Zaros, asher lo cholak lahem. These are not Avodah Zaros that I gave for you. I didn't allow these in the world for you. These are in the world for them, not for you. So what are you picking up things? Asher lo sarim aviseichem. You're picking up things that are no shaykhs to you. The Rabbeinu Shalom gave us a weapon that is more potent than any weapon that they have. They have Hayadayim Yidei Esav. That's what they have. Esav has Klei Zayin. Esav has a sword. Esav has a gun. We have Hakel Kal Yaakov. And before somebody runs to start talking about picking up the Klei Zayin Shel Esav, talk about picking up the Klei Zayin Shel Yaakov. Why isn't there a hue and cry? Especially, it's a very odd thing. You had, if you go back a few years ago, you had mass shootings in schools. You had it all started with the post office, right? Going postal. You had mass shootings in the post offices. You had mass shootings in schools. You had mass shootings in movie theaters, right? And now suddenly it's become mass shootings in houses of worship. You had churches, and now shuls. Well, sorry? Yeah. Oh no, I'm not saying that. If somebody's coming, I'm not. Again, I said I don't want to get. I don't want to get into the. I don't want to get into the. I don't want to get into the question. I'm saying you're always ready to pounce. I'm saying independent of the question of whether or not somebody should have a gun, and certainly a bala hargach, you should hashkiv harga. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that when something like this happens, and right away you hear a whole tumult of should I get a gun, and should the schools have guns, and should the shuls have guns, somebody should get up, and I'm doing it. Somebody should get up and somebody should say, let's be mechazik ourselves with tefillah. Let's be mechazik ourselves with tefillah. We say at the end of Shemoneh Esrei, we'll get into the middle of Shemoneh Esrei too, but at the end of Shemoneh Esrei, we say in our Kain Nitzar, v'chol hakamim v'hachoshvim alay l'ra, anybody who gets up and thinks even evil against us, mehera, no, Hafar atzasam, the kalkal machaftam. So you know what that means? That means that we're asking Bari Olam at the end of Shemona Esrei. There's a guy in Gaza who's in the middle of setting up a rocket. The rocket should find an empty field, or better yet, the rocket should blow up in his face. Or I heard yesterday the rocket found a Palestinian. You know, so you know what? But we're asking now. I like to think that when I'm davening Shemona Esrei, when I'm davening and I say v'la malshinim al tisikva v'chal aminim kerege yavedu v'chal oivei amcha meheira yikaresu, I like to think that I am being 1,000 times more effective than Bibi Netanyahu, than Lieberman, than anybody else, than any general, than anybody else who is working with weaponry and working with strategy and working with tactics and working with everything else. I like to think that I am being 1,000 times more effective than they are when I'm mispaled to the Ribbono Shel Olam and I ask the Ribbono Shel Olam, "V'chol oivei amcha meheiri yikaresu." I'm here. I'm in Staten Island. I'm 6,000 miles away from Eretz Yisrael. But I am reaching out to Gaza. I'm reaching out to not only to Gaza, I'm reaching out to Iran, to the rooms and the buildings where they're sitting and they're plotting with Hezbollah and everything else. I'm reaching out over there and I'm messing up their plans. Not me, I'm not doing it. I'm asking the Ribbono Shel Olam, and the Ribbono Shel Olam is B'kabel HaTfilos. Again, what I'm saying is that we should grab hold of our Klei Zayin. Our Klei Zayin is Tefillah. We should be mechazik in Tefillah. We should be mechazik in what we do in the Beis HaKnesses. We should be mechazik in how we comport ourselves when we come to shul, what we do in shul, that we should have kavanah in our tefillas, that we should have hachana, we should prepare ourselves beforehand, that we're coming to daven to the Ribbono Shel Olam. We should think to ourselves that what we're asking for the Ribbono Shel Olam to do, and the power of tefillah, we should recognize the power of tefillah. To that end, what I would like to do is, we haven't even gotten to Pirkei Avos yet, and I'm already making more plans. But if time allowing, if the Mishnah Berurah will go faster, I would like to dedicate Tuesday nights, when there's time, to speaking about tefillah. You can start from the beginning and go through and discuss tefillah. I didn't give up on Pirkei Avos. We didn't even get to Pirkei Avos yet, but I'm making other plans. Now you could pounce.